All right, peace. So this is a good old-fashioned car rant. Here's the deal. I was traveling this weekend. I got a phone call from YFF wanted to talk about this, and a couple other people wanted to talk about this. I couldn't get on, and I couldn't weigh in on this situation via those routes. So I'm gonna put out a Facebook car rant and talk about some of these issues around this tragic situation where this young kid was shot and killed, and it involved a drug deal gone bad, and another one in I think Easley was where the other one happened. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Same kind of thing. Young kid, drug deal gone bad. And the other part of it is people are kind of puzzled because these kids sort of came from the right side of the tracks, that kind of thing. And you'll hear them say, good kid, good athlete, honor student, all that kind of stuff. And of course, we know that these issues transcend all socioeconomic classes, transcend all honor roll students, that kind of thing, or athletes. That's one of the things right off the jump I wanted to get in there. You got to stop separating yourself from this. I know it's a coping skill for parents, and I know it's a coping skill for school administrators and stuff like that, and for football coaches, and we think that there are like certain groups of kids that are doing this. That's something that we should really get over, guys. Every kid is at risk of doing this stuff, okay? Now, the good news is the majority of kids aren't. But we can't be like that group, or that group, or that group. And every time a kid from a good family has an issue, we have to make sure that we say he was from a good family, as if being from a good family insulates you from this issue. Because here's the deal. All right. So you look at this, and here's what's going to come out of this. People are going to react to this, and they're going to start looking at, like, what's the solution? Obviously, what is the solution to this circumstance? A bunch of people want to lock up drug dealers. And I get that. That makes all kind of sense. They want to go after, people like the person who did the murders. I understand that, and that's fine. Go after them. Lock up drug dealers. Here's the deal. That's been going on since Richard Nixon and the war on drugs. That is not the solution. You're not going to arrest your way out of this issue. The second thing that happens is we got to do prevention. We got to treat the kids and teach them. Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. If you look at the history of prevention in education in schools and things like DARE and other like Just Say No campaigns, if you look at it historically from a sociological perspective, from a big picture perspective, here's what we know. Starts in like the 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, this stuff starts to take off, and it does its job. You cannot argue that prevention didn't work. I mean, literally, if you want to actually look at like teenage drug use, look at the 70s when all the baby boomers were smoking the hippie lettuce all day, every day. Now they're in charge of everything. That's interesting. But anyway, cranking it up, doing what they need to do. Marijuana use was above 50% in most high schools. DARE comes on board, bang, they drive it down to historic lows. They hold down the marijuana. They drive up perceived risk. So in other words, more kids think it's risky than ever before, and less kids use. That's great stuff. That's great results. They did their job. And you want to know what? Even in the face of legalization, they haven't seen pre-prevention levels. Actually, it's about half as much. If I'm not mistaken, it's around 24%, that kind of thing. So it's working. It's doing its job. Prevention is doing its job. It's holding down use. If you look at things like drugs other than marijuana, they actually went down among teens. So if prevention is supposed to prevent the escalation of use, it's working. Good job. It's driving down everything. Even like Vicodin is driven down, like hydrocodone. So it's not that more kids are using, it's what they are using. Do you get that? It's the substances that are available now that weren't available then. And it's also some of these other risky behaviors and that kind of thing. But here's what's interesting. There appears to be a level, and it looks like it's around 10 to 12, 10 to 15%, which, I don't know, might be a little bit more than that, but it's not 50%. There seems to be a level of prevention-resistant kids. And there also seems to be an issue with kids who have already started to experiment with things. They aren't being touched. No one can get to them, and you're not going to get to them with more education. It's not going to happen. They're already there. They're already experimenting. And you're not going to get them to go to treatment unless you like rush them off to rehab If you use that model where we're going to, crank out and spend 40 grand to get the kid to rehab and hope for our best, we know that that's not going to work. Kids, it's hard enough to like get a person to, attend group therapy, for example, if they think they have a problem. Imagine what it's like for a 16-year-old. So what we have is we have an unmet need. We have an unaddressed issue, and it's this thing called early intervention or, early mentorship or early recovery coaching or what have you. Somebody needs to get in there in a long-term relationship with these kids. And then here's the second point, and this is probably bigger, and this is probably where Favor Greenville is going to jump in with both feet. Just because this stuff is outrageous and, you hear something like this, you lose your noodle. So here's the deal. Educate the crap out of the parents. Stop blaming the parents. This article today said something about parents better start paying attention. They're paying attention. They just don't know what the hell to do with them. What do? Do you go on Google and call like your local rehab so they can tell you get them on a plane and send them out to Orange County, California or South Beach, Florida so that they can live in that freaking cesspool? Is that what you do with a 16-year-old? Do you send them out to boarding school? What do you do? Do you send them to your local clinic? Is the 16-year-old going to go to your local clinic? Stop blaming the parents. As a matter of fact, do the exact opposite. Educate the hell out of the parents. Empower the parents, and let's make this a family and community solution. Check us out at favorgreenville.org. If you got anything going on, call us, 864-430-1802. Come see us tomorrow night. I'm going to be back in town. I'm coming back in town because of this. I want to be at family group tomorrow night. I'm going to start banging out this education everywhere I go. And the deal is parents, you don't need professionals. You need to be empowered. You need to become experts. We will help you do that. Later.